All right, we're back here on SportsLine, taking your phone calls to 973-777-67. A couple topics. Championship game last night. Where does it rank all time for you? Is there a better college basketball championship game than what we saw last night? Do you go back to the Michael Jordan shot in 1982, North Carolina State beating Phi Slamma Jamma in 83, the Villanova perfect game, as they called it, in 85, the Duke Butler game 5 years ago, where Gordon Hayward had the potential buzzer beater that bounced off the rim from half court? Where does this one rank? Are any of those better, or is this one now above all of that in your mind? Same thing for the Chris Jenkins shot. Where does that rank all time? MJ shot, Lorenzo Charles putback. Where does this rank in terms of difficulty and importance in a championship game in your mind? And then the other topic tonight, Valparaiso's Bryce Drew headed to Vanderbilt, reportedly a 6-year contract with the Commodores. He's a guy that's had early success in his career. How do you feel about his fit at Vanderbilt? I like it. I think it's good. As I said before, I think he's going to embrace the culture at Vanderbilt, and he's going to fit in well. And remember here, this is a guy who has NBA experience. He grew up coaching. He was a great player, but has a great work ethic besides it. He learned under his dad. His brother has had very similar success in Baylor and Vanderbilt aren't completely the same schools. I certainly understand that, but you're talking about Power 5 schools that are private schools. And that's where Scott's been since 2003. And he's had a lot of success out there. More success than Baylor basketball has ever had. He's navigated the fact that they didn't have a lot of success in the past. He's navigated the fact that they are a private school, that they are a religious school. Some of those same things can be said about Valparaiso. Some of those same things can be said about Vanderbilt. So if anybody's going to understand what he's walking into, you would think it's Bryce Drew, and I think that's very important here. Because, again, to me, Vanderbilt, it's probably not a top 15, top 20 job right now, but it's a very good job. And as I said the other night, all you need if you're Vanderbilt is you need one good coach to agree and come in and make it great. And I think Bryce Drew gives you the type of potential, the type of ceiling that can happen. He thinks it's a good job. He thinks it's a good enough job to take the steps in his career where he wants to go. And you got to believe that's winning games, going to tournaments, winning conference titles. That's what he wants to do. That's clearly the goal at Vanderbilt as well. So a guy that he believes that he can do it there, he's certainly bought into the vision and knows what he's going into. Now can he help it raise its level even more? Can he make it a top 15 job, top 20 job in the country? 737-7767 is the number tonight. Let's go to Jay. Jay, good evening. You're next up.
Hey, Steve, what a night last night.
Oh, man, wasn't that great?
I tell you, I had to be at work at 6 this morning. I couldn't go to sleep hardly. I kept watching the replays and watching, they kept showing the reaction of the Villanova crowd at their arena, and that was unbelievable. But anyway, I think that was the best I've ever seen. I mean, I thought North Carolina, I said, they done tied it up. They're going to make a run. But, that Villanova team, they play as a team. I've never seen such an unselfish team play. They all play well together. And first of all, on the Bryce Drew, I'm very excited as a Vandy fan. I think this is going to bring a lot of energy and excitement, and I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Awesome. That's what they want. David Williams even said it a week ago yesterday at the press conference after Kevin Stallings left. He admitted that, look, part of this is marketing and getting a guy that's going to excite the fan base and help you sell some tickets. And for all of us who have watched Vanderbilt basketball over the years, remember, it wasn't that long ago when Memorial Gym and Vanderbilt basketball was one of the toughest tickets in this city. And that place was always packed, and it was always loud, and it was very difficult to go in and play. That hasn't been the case for the last handful of years, even when Vanderbilt has been a tournament team. even when they've been a good team. It hasn't always been that brutal environment, the historical Memorial Gym that we remember from some years past. Bryce Drew can bring some of that excitement, and if he wins, he can bring some of those fans back. And that has to be exciting if you're a Vanderbilt fan. Going back to last night, I think, to me, I think it's number one in my book too. I think as I look back on some of those games, and certainly I haven't seen all of the championship games. The MJ shot in '82 was actually before I was born. You know, when you look back on that game, though, there was the throwaway pass by Georgetown right before that, or I guess right after that. So you have a great shot, you have an iconic moment with an iconic player. It was a good game, but then you have a guy making a boneheaded play down the stretch. The North Carolina State, huge upset, one of the greatest upsets in tournament history over Houston. They played exceptionally well in that game, but that's a broken play at the end of the game with Derek Wittenberger just chucking it from half court, basically. And inexplicably, no one from Houston's around the basket or the rim or anything. And Lorenzo Charles is there to put it in and win the game. Duke Butler wasn't a great, aesthetically pleasing game. Very well coached, hard fought. I love that game. But last night, the performances on both sides were terrific. And as I said before, it was players making plays down the stretch. It wasn't throwing the ball away to the other team or broken play turns into something great. It was guys making plays over and over. I mean, Marcus Page's three-point shot, the level of difficulty on that play was through the roof. And now that's just going to be a footnote to the game because of what Chris Jenkins does on the other end when he knocks down a walk-off championship three to win Villanova's second national championship. I think if you put me on the spot, the one other game that might be up there for me would be the Villanova 85 game. And again, I didn't watch that live. Certainly have no recollection of anything like that. I've seen bits and pieces of it throughout the years since. But that was an elite Georgetown team. And that was, as they call it, the perfect game. 78%, one missed field goal in the second half of the game for Villanova to squeak that game out. To me, that's similar in that it was a great effort. It was an all-time effort to win the game. But these were two heavyweights. These were the two best teams in the country by virtue of the fact that they were there and what they have done all season and all tournament. And they traded blows. Carolina was awesome in the first half. Roy Williams has some dudes on that team. And they just knocked down shot after shot. But yet Villanova was there, down just 5 at the half. Nova comes out as a great second half once again. But Carolina doesn't go away. Down 10, they battle back. They get themselves in a position to force overtime, and then you have that ending. Tough to beat that. That's why I think last night's game, even in the aftermath, and it's always dangerous to use hyperbole right after something when it's so fresh in your mind. But as I sit back a day later, I think I'm more convinced that what we watched last night was the best college basketball championship game we've ever seen. And that Chris Jenkins' shot is an all-time NCAA shot. Back to the phones now, and Brian. Brian, good evening.
Yeah. Hey, hello. Yes, I almost fell asleep there. Yeah, I thought that, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, I thought that we talked last week about this, and I said, I was rattling off my teams. I thought Kansas, and I thought the only team that might knock them off would be Villanova. And if they did that, I mean, you could have looked at that. That could have been like the championship game, and this was just But I don't know, North Carolina, my brother lives in Vegas and Hawaii, and he says all the guys in Vegas, they laid off a lot of Villanova because they had the points, like 6 points.
Right.
So they plowed a lot of money out of them, and like at the last minute, it dropped the odds. So I don't know about that, but I was also wondering, when's the first day of the Sounds coming up? And it's such a great stadium, and it was such a great team, but how come they had such a lousy record, especially late in the season? They're like dropping all their games.
Yeah, we appreciate the call, Brian. Villanova was a great team. I love that team. I got proven wrong by them a lot in this tournament because I looked at the past. I looked at what they had done in tournaments before. I doubted the Big East, and I just didn't think when they went up against Kansas or went up against Oklahoma or North Carolina that they would be able to match them in the front court and that they would ultimately be able to win. And they proved me wrong and proved me wrong again. And even Sunday night, I said, look, they keep proving me wrong, so they're probably going to do it again. But I can't go with them. I'm going with the more talented team and all those draft picks in North Carolina, and Villanova goes and wins. So congratulations to them on one of the more difficult runs to win a national championship we've ever seen, and they did it in historic fashion. The one thing you can say about Villanova is when they win the national title, you're going to remember it for a while, based off of the perfect game in 1985 and now the perfect ending last night with Chris Jenkins' shot. To the other part of that call, Sounds opening day Thursday night, 6:35, first pitch against the Oklahoma City Dodgers. 8 consecutive days at home to start the season off, so that's great at First Tennessee Park, and it is a terrific ballpark. If you didn't get out there last summer, I urge you to get out there this year because it is a great place to go, a great place to watch games. So get out there, check it out. I think they're going to be better this year. They talked about that today at Media Day, that they were frustrated for not living up to the standards of A's minor league baseball. The A's AAA affiliate has been really good for years and years and years. They've won AAA championships and Pacific Coast League titles and all that things over and over and over again. And so when they signed up to come to Nashville last year, you thought, okay, we're going to have a bunch of really good players, we're going to have a good team. And they just did not live up to that last year. Now, part of that was the A's weren't great, and the A's had injuries. And so they called a lot of those guys up, especially as the year went on. Joey Wendell, some of the pitching staff, a bunch of those guys ended up spending time in the big leagues last year, which obviously hurts your team at AAA. But that's one thing they talked about today, is living up to the standards that the organization and that team, that AAA team, has set for themselves over the years. And that was something that they did not do last season. All right, 737-7767 is the number. We got to take a break. We will come back, maybe a little more on opening day. Some Masters stuff, more to get to as we move along here on SportsLine on News Channel 5+.